Hey guys, what's up? This is Brett. Welcome to this week's episode of Friday on the Turntable. As you can tell from the title, this is another one in my album ranking series. I featured lots of artists in the past: The Cure, David Bowie, Peter Murphy, etc., etc. There's a bunch of them. There should be a link section on my channel for album rankings. So today it is Siouxsie The Banshees, and I'm looking at all 11 of their studio albums. Not including live albums, and I'm not including compilations. So just in case you guys are wondering why isn't one of those on there, those aren't part of the rules in this series. So why do I do these rankings? Primarily it's for fun. I love the discussion of comparing favorites and seeing kind of which albums hit people more than others. So what might be my least favorite album by an artist might be someone else's favorite, and I kind of find that pretty fascinating. And I had a comment recently from someone that said, if you are a true fan of this particular artist or whatever, how can you rank it? Well, first of all, I think that's ridiculous because I don't consider myself a fan. I'm a music lover, I'm a musician, I'm an analyzer, and I'm a discusser, and I love to get in these discussions about music. So, you know, it's fun, and also it's a comparison thing for someone that's already familiar with the artist, and for those of you that watch my channel that aren't familiar with the artist, I'm hoping that it's a launching point of discovery for you guys, and kind of, if you trust my opinion on some things, then you can get an idea of, if you want to jump in on an artist, of where to start. I will have a link down below. I made a Spotify playlist, which as usual will include my 3 favorite tracks from each album, so be sure to check that out. There will be a link below, as well as on that link there will be purchase link, so if you want to buy any of these albums on whatever format, I think it'll all be linked up. And if you'd like to leave some comments, if you're going to be critical of my choices, please post your detailed list in the comments section below, ranked. Don't just say, hey, my favorite is this one, how could you put that one below that? Make your list so I can see how you make your decisions as well. So always look forward to that. So it's been a blast this past couple weeks going through from beginning to end, and one thing I really find fascinating when I do these is how much an artist changed from their inception until either the band's demise or they're continuing their last album and what the future will bring. So for Siouxsie The Banshees, their recording career lasted from their first album in 1978, The Scream, all the way through 1995. Their final album, The Rapture. So let's get started. Like I said, 11 albums. I'm going to start at number 11 and work my way to my favorite one. So here we go. So coming in at number 11, this was Siouxsie The Banshees' final album, as I just mentioned. This is 1995's The Rapture. It's a really big change in their sound, like I said, from their debut. This one was co-produced by John Cale from the Velvet Underground. And back in the late 90s, Siouxsie and Budgie had another band called The Creatures, and I actually saw them on tour with John Cale. So this falls in at the last place for me, number 11. Not that I dislike the album, but it's just not one that I grab when I want to grab a Siouxsie and the Banshees record. This isn't the one I immediately go to. It's a bit more polished, a bit more ballady, and yeah, let's just go. 3 favorite tracks in this one: Forever, which is a pretty gorgeous song, Tearing Apart, and Fall From Grace. That's The Rapture in at number 11. In at number 10, so after the guitar player John McGeoch left the band in the early 80s, the guy that replaced him was some guy named Robert Smith, who was from, obviously, the band The Cure, who was kind of doing double duty with both bands, The Cure and Siouxsie and the Banshees. And this was the album to feature him on, and it was coincidentally co-produced by Mike Hedges, who actually produced the first 3 Cure albums. And this is Hyena. And this was their 6th album, and it was from 1984. The U.S. version only had a cover of the Beatles' Dear Prudence on it, so that's the one the people in the U.S. know, but everywhere else that track wasn't on it. I think it was just a standalone single. So that's definitely a great track, but I didn't include that one in my top 3 just to keep some universal vibe going with that. So first, favorite 3 ones on this one are Dazzle, Swimming Horses, and Belladonna. This is in at number 10. On my ranking, let's go on to number 9. Number 9 came out in 1987. It was their 8th album, and it was an album full of cover songs. This is Through the Looking Glass. And Through the Looking Glass was interesting. It had some really cool interpretations of lots of cool artists. Iggy Pop, Sparks, The Doors, John Cale, Roxy Music, Television, Kraftwerk, Billie Holiday. And my 3 favorite tracks on this one are Trust in Me, which is probably my favorite one on this one, which was a song that was sung by the Snake in the Disney movie The Jungle Book. And this is just a really cool version of it. The version of Iggy Pop's The Passenger is also excellent, as well as a song that was written by Bob Dylan and Rick Danko, who is from the band This Wheel's on Fire, which I think was kind of made popular by Julie Driscoll, I think her name was. But yeah, this is in at number 9. This is Through the Looking Glass, all covers. Number 8, this is such a cool album because it is just so raw. And, I love bands, this era of music, whether you call it post-punk, whether you call it new wave. But the first Siouxsie and the Banshees album from 1978, just the production on it, I just love how it sounds. I love the edgy guitar. And it's just a really interesting debut album. So this is The Scream. This album, I don't think, had any actual singles come off of it. I think the track Metal Postcard was issued as a single after their second album came out, and it was a German version of the song. But this is their debut. Has another cover of a Beatles song, Helter Skelter, which is a really raucous version. And yeah, so 3 favorite tracks on this one. What did I put? Overground, Switch, and Metal Postcard. So that's 1978, their debut album, and that was in at number 8 for me. Number 7, Superstition. Beautiful album cover. It's a much more produced album. I mean, when you compare these two and the sound of them, it is so drastically different. But I remember buying this when it came out back in 1991. Seeing the video for Kiss Them For Me on MTV, which was a really intriguing and a beautiful video. And then that summer they toured on the Lollapalooza tour, which I had to sadly miss because I had to drive out to Chicago for my sister's wedding. And so I missed the opening show that was in Phoenix because it was the first show of that tour. But there is, what was I going to say? Oh, anyway, yeah. Nigel Godrich, if you guys are familiar with Radiohead, he's worked with them, I think, since the Bends, but predominantly since OK Computer. And he actually was a co-engineer, I think it was, on this album. So it was one of the first things he actually did in the music industry. 3 favorite tracks: Kiss Them For Me, Little Sister, which is a great, great song that you really don't hear much about, and Shadow Time, which was, I think it was a single, and I think there was a music video for it. But those 3 tracks are great. There's some other hidden gems on this one. Yeah, so that's in at number 7, and that was their 10th album. In at number 6, this was the last of their 3 albums to feature John McGeoch on guitar. Now, he was a member of the band Magazine, for those of you guys familiar with Magazine. And this album, it was kind of the first one that really started to incorporate some other sounds, like strings. It had bells on it, organ, and it was a kind of a big departure from the album that preceded it. So this is A Kiss in the Dream House. This is from 1982. It has a really great sound when that first track kicks in, Cascade, which is one of my favorite tracks in this one. So Cascade, Melt, and Green Fingers. Really good. Definitely seek this one out. I just recently found this one on vinyl. So yeah, that is in at number 6. That was from 1982, and that was their 5th album. All right, here we go. Top 5 now. This was their 2nd album. This is Join Hands. There's a certain mood and a rawness and a darkness to this record that I find really draws me in, and I find myself pulling this one out and listening to it a lot. The track Icon on here is one of my absolute favorite Siouxsie and the Banshees song. So like I said, it was their 2nd album. It came out in 1979, After the album's release, they lost their two of the two members. So the guitar player left. That was John McKay, and Kenny Morris on drums left the band as well. So they were replaced by John McGeoch, as I said from Magazine, and Budgie, who became the permanent drummer all the way to the band's end. And yeah, and side 2 on this one features a 14-plus minute version of the Lord's Prayer, which was kind of an improvised song that they had performed at the very first Siouxsie and the Banshees show, which was just like a 20-minute improvisational show. I think Sid Vicious played drums, and the band wasn't going to even do anything after that, but they ended up continuing, and then thus we have this big body of music. 3 favorite tracks. Icon is number 1, obviously. Playground Twist, which was a single as well, and then Mother, Oh Mine Papa, which is a great track on that one. It's like a music box, and it's just a really really cool piece of music. All right, that was Join Hands, 1979, their second album. Those of you that are really familiar with Siouxsie and the Banshees know what's left. For those of you that aren't, number 4, this was their 7th album from 1986, Tinderbox. I've grown to love this album more and more. My favorite song on this one is actually The Swedish Chill. There is a guitar theme that comes in. Dun, 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 dun. I can't even do it justice, but it is so excellent. And this was the first one to feature the guitarist John Valentine Carruthers. It's most notable for having the track that's been played at multitudes of goth clubs since it was released, Cities and Dust. That was a huge track for them. Like I said, my number 1 song off this one is The Swedish Chill. Number 2, This Unrest, and number 3, Candyman. So like I said before in my intro, that all these songs, these 3 ones, will be collected on a playlist, and it'll be linked below. All right, top 3, guys, ready? Now this is an album when I was younger. The sound, it's weird when you distance from years, because when I first heard this album, it hit me as being just overproduced at the time. But now that it's 20 whatever years later, your mind and your ears kind of get detached from the sound of an era. And when I listen back to it now, it sounds so fresh. And the way I can describe this album is it's just like a psychedelic gothic carnival. And this was their 9th album from 1988. This is Peep Show. Another song that was just a club staple was Peekaboo, which is probably one of my least favorite songs on the album. But what an interesting album. Sounds, the accordion on it, and it actually, Martin McCarrick does a lot of the accordion and the strings, and he was a member of This Mortal Coil. He played on a lot of that stuff, and there is an incredible performance of the song The Last Beat of My Heart from this album. I may even put a link down to that as well, and it was from the Seattle Lollapalooza from '91, and it is such a great, just goosebump inducing performance of The Last Beat of My Heart, which probably is my absolute favorite Siouxsie and the Banshees song. This album also marked the appearance of John Klein on guitar, who would appear all the way till the end. And John Klein was one of the founding members of the band Specimen, kind of a UK death rock band. So Last Beat of My Heart, favorite track, Scarecrow and The Killing Jar. Just excellent. There's a lot more great stuff on that one as well. All right, in at number 2. This one was produced by Nigel Gray, who actually worked on the band The Police's first 3 albums. And Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols actually plays guitar on I think 3 songs. I don't know if he was being considered to be in the band as a guitar player, but he incidentally played on 3 tracks. This is Kaleidoscope. This is, I think, the first album to have some drum machines in it and some keyboards and some really interesting sounds. 3 favorite songs on this, and this was the first one with John McGeoch on guitar and Budgie. So it definitely is a step in a different direction musically. His guitar playing on this, like if you listen to Happy House, for example, Just great. So my 3 favorite tracks on this one: Happy House, Paradise Place, and Trophy. But that's not to mention that there's not some other great tracks on there, because I think from beginning to end, this is really quite great album. All right, so those of you guys that know, you know what number 1 is. This is an album I did a Friday on the Turntable feature maybe at least over a year ago. Dark, tribal, killer from beginning to end. This is Juju. This was their 4th album from 1981, and yeah, when I go to grab a Siouxsie The Banshees album, this is the one I always go to. I just love the tribalness of the drums, spellbound when you listen to that track with the guitar, the way the guitar and the bass and the pounding drums work together. It's just great. Night Shift is my favorite one on this one. Into the Light and Spellbound. So if you're looking for a recommendation on Siouxsie The Banshees, that is my list. So I will have a link with a text one where you can kind of scroll through and look at them all again in order with the 3 favorite tracks, Spotify link, and there's some links to other things that I have on there for you to check out. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun doing this one. Like I said, it was great listening. At one point, you know, I've listened to each album probably 3 times over the last couple weeks. And at one point I started at the beginning and just listened straight through to the end. And that involvement was really quite something else to experience. So anyways, look forward to you guys' comments. Thanks for watching.